Welcome to Chicago Bulls Chat with C-Red UK. This podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network. Wherever or however you're listening, make sure to rate, review and subscribe. It helps us out and means you never miss another episode. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave some comments for us to get back to. And for all the C-Red UK action, check out the Discord channel and across the socials. Now, over to your hosts, Matt Hearn and Neil Dunn.
Welcome back. I'm Matt, and as usual, joined by Neil. How are we doing, Neil?
I'm okay. How are you?
Melting at the minute. We seem to be having a mini heat wave over here at the minute, and obviously I'm sitting in a tin can, sweating my bits off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's been a nice day here as well in Ireland, but I don't think it's quite as warm as it is in the UK.
No, but anyway, we complain when it's cold. So
yeah, I never complain when it's too. I hate it when people are complaining about the fact that it's too hot. I'm like we get 5 hot days a year in Ireland. Don't complain about it. Just get over it.
Yeah, I just don't do well with heat. I'd rather be cold. So
yeah, we know you don't like heat.
yeah, neither do Bulls. So, but on with the episode. Obviously, we are going to be joined with by a guest tonight, and that is Clem, or French Bulls TV, however you want to know him. We have had him as a guest before, when we very, very first started. But this will be the first time we've been joined by him on YouTube. So before we do go over to him, we're just going to cover a couple of things that have come out within Bulls Nation last couple of days. First one is yesterday we've reportedly been linked to Clint Capella from Atlanta. We was on a list of teams that were linked to him. No mention of how we're going to get him, who we're going to move to get him. I mean, he's set to earn 22 million next year. So who are we moving to free up 22 million if it is true? You know, ideally, as fans are saying, you're moving Vooch to get him, but what's the point? And if you're moving somebody else to get him, why not just bring back Andre Drummond cheaper?
Yeah.
It is just a rumour. Obviously, the title of this episode is Off-Season Begins, and, well, with that, silly rumours have begun.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of them to come as well.
Yeah. And next one, obviously, got quite a bit of traction, and it come from Will Gottlieb of CHGO. Reported that from a source he'd been told at the trade deadline, Bulls turned down multiple offers for Alex Caruso, and they were basically told by ownership that they couldn't move him to basically stay competitive to get to the playoffs. Now, my first thought was, this is old news. You know, we knew they'd turned down offers for him. We knew that Golden State was interested in him.
Yeah.
Obviously, one thing that people seem to jump on is the fact that they turned down a top 10 in this year's draft for him. Well, this was in February. They didn't know it was a top 10 pick at that point.
No, absolutely.
Nobody did. Unless, obviously, it was coming from someone like Pistons, then, you know, you pretty much guarantee it was going to be top 10. Obviously, the biggest thing to take from it is the fact that ownership apparently said, don't do it, stay competitive. We then get AK coming out saying, we're competitive. And that's a bit that fans have ran with, and, you know, but to me, again, that's nothing new. We know what this ownership is. We know what this management is. It's Bulls.
It doesn't stop it from being frustrating as hell, though.
Yeah, but I was frustrated back in February. So, yeah, I was frustrated last year. I was frustrated the year before. I've been frustrated for the last 25 years. So,
Mm-hmm.
like I say, to me, it's just nothing new. I think it's a bit of off-season news that fans have jumped on, and yeah.
I think one of the things that people are, justly PO'd about is the fact that AK had come out previously and said that he was pretty much greenlit to make whatever decisions and whatever changes need to be made in order to move this team forward. And then if this report is true, then it's saying that the mandate is being sent out by the Reinsdorfs, saying actually no, you can't make whatever moves you want. So it comes back to that whole like we aren't being fed the truth by the organization. Someone somewhere along the lines is feeding us a load of crap, and that's what frustrates and annoys and upsets the fans, I think. And this whole conversation of transparency we've had several times in the past. I think the lack of transparency from the Bulls front office and Bulls management down to the fan base and to the media is what really fires people up and gets under their skin, and myself included. And I think that's kind of what's led to people getting quite so aggravated by this, even though essentially it's kind of something we pretty much had assumed was the case, or at least had seen for so many years in the past.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair, it's going to be just one of a number of stories like this that are going to come
No
out.
doubt.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it for rumours, news, and what have you. So, without further ado, we'll welcome in Clem, and the chat will continue. So, welcome back, and as you can see, we're now joined by Clem, or French Bulls TV, as you may know him off YouTube. Obviously, we said in the intro bit, Clem, we have had you on before when we were very first started.
On Stump, yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
that's right.
That was a good couple of years ago now, I think. Obviously, in that time, we have actually met you as well. One of the only guests we have actually met.
That's true.
Obviously, out in Paris.
I met Casey Johnson. Just saying.
Flex.
And Tim Sinclair.
And Tim twice.
Yeah.
Double flex.
But anyway, for me, Clem is the only guest that I've actually met. So you should feel honoured, Clem.
I am.
But yeah, obviously we met you out in Paris. We stepped out of our car at the the one ball gym.
Yes, that was, yeah.
And you shouted over to us, and we was like, "What the hell's that? Who knows us here?"
It was the craziest timing because I was just arriving at that exact same time. We were just in the front door.
Yeah, and then obviously we was in the same hotel, and you become our tour guide for a couple of days, really.
Which was quite necessary, I feel.
Yeah.
It could have gone either way otherwise. We could have ended up anyway.
Sure.
Obviously we have sort of kept in touch through whether it's Discord or Twitter or whichever. But yeah, obviously for anybody that doesn't know you, let you introduce yourself.
Well, French Bulls fans, that's how you'll find me on Twitter, on Instagram. French guy following the Bulls. Having a YouTube channel, making videos about the team, having the various social medias as well. The Bulls follow me. That's a flex. See, I can flex too. The Bulls send me packages. That's another flex. But yeah, just so yeah, that's as much as you need to know, I guess. Unless you have further questions.
No, I mean obviously you do pop up on Twitter and like in the CHGO, the lives and stuff like that. So
yeah, I'm also one of the moderator for the official Bulls Discord, so that's why I get some packages. And stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously the off season has officially begun now, and that's where we're gonna what we're going to get into. Obviously, at the minute we're just about a week away from the draft.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you go back 40 years on this day, we drafted Michael Jordan.
Yes,
Uh,
indeed.
Don't think we're going to get that lucky on this year's draft.
No.
Nah. It's also 40 years since we drafted Carl Lewis. That's a little known fact, but we drafted the Carl Lewis like in like 10 or 11 or 12 round of the draft that year. But he declined to come and play basketball.
Wow.
He did great. He did great.
Yeah, he did okay.
He did all right. He did all right.
So, I mean, I know where Neil sort of is with the draft, but have you paid that much attention to it? Have you done a deep dive on it? Got any players in mind that you want to see go with that 11th pick? Or
Probably not extremely deep, but I did make my research and watch videos and games of a few guys, and mostly the guys that came out in some rumors and stuff. Like, we had worked out with this guy. We might promise to this guy to take him if he's available at 11. So, yeah, I checked a few profiles. Some of them interesting in many ways. The thing is, we have so many flaws as a team that you can't expect to solve all of them with one guy, especially if it's a number 11 pick. So it just depends on what the Bulls want to, which problem the Bulls want to address with this pick. If they want to add some size, if they want to add some defense, if they want to get some shooting, because they won't get all of them in one guy. What I would like to see happening is some trades, so we get more picks, either on this draft or for next year or the years after that. But because some of the people who did some workouts lately, they're not projected in the lottery. They could be end of the first round, early second round. So I'm thinking, if they are looking at those guys, it might be a sign that let's have a look. Let's have a look and see if we can get a different pick and you know, leave the draft with more than one player.
Yeah. No, I mean, me and Neil have put 3 players down that we'd. It's not that we think they're going to draft, but we wouldn't be.
That you would like to see.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got a list of players that? I mean, we're pretty much the same as you. We've listened to or read the mock drafts, listened to what other people have said, and then looked at the players. You know, whether it's the ones that have been made a promise, whatever it happens to be. But yeah, we've got 3 players, which we'll go through in a minute. Have you got any players that you sort of would prefer?
I like Dalton Connect, who is a forward who can bring some scoring, some shooting, not bad defense as well, even though that probably not his main stuff. I was watching some stuff about Ryan Dunn, who's got a massive wingspan, and he would be like the typical AK pick, with the guy with massive wingspan, big defender. So I'm thinking AK would be interested about him. And as far as the French prospect, I would love to get Tidjane Salon. It would be nice. I don't know if he's going to fall in 11, but that's the problem with this draft, though. Every week there's different mock drafts, like from 5, 6, 7 different websites, and you can have a player 5th on this one, you can have a player 14 on this one, and that same player could be 22nd on the other one. So you just don't know. You don't have a clear idea of what order it's going to be. So it's very difficult to predict. You could still have all your potential targets available at 11, or you can have none of them left. So it's very weird. I don't think we should go for a guard unless we decide on that same night to make a trade for Zach LaVine and or Caruso, which would give us some space at the guard positions. Otherwise, we have enough.
Yeah, I mean,
go on.
that's one thing that we keep saying is about obviously this overcrowded guard room that we've got. It may look overcrowded at the minute, but come the start of the season, if certain moves happen, we also look very empty in the guard room because you've got obviously Kobe and Ayo are going to be there. Javon Carter, nobody wants him on the team, so you don't really add him into it. We don't know what's going on with Lonzo Ball. People want to move Caruso, people want to move Levine, so that leaves you Ayo and Kobe as your definite guard room basically, and obviously Dale and Terry can play there, but I think Bulls have kind of moved him to the 3 more than anything at the minute.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be against us drafting a guard if the moves are made, like you say, Caruso or Levine or whatever. I mean, what were you going to say, Neil?
No, I was just going to say it's the strangest draft in my recent memory. Anyway, I've never known one that's so wide open and all over the place.
Even the first pick.
Yeah, even the first pick. I mean, it's almost like it's between 2 or 3 players for the number 1 pick, whereas every other year it's always 1, maybe 2 players at a push. Yeah, and that's it. It's normally so much more clearly defined, especially in the lottery. And it's just all over the place this year, to the point, like you say, someone who is on one mock draft showing in the 20s and in going into even late first round into second round picks, they're being shown as much higher in the draft on the next mock draft that you look at. And it kind of makes it quite difficult for people that want to look into the draft that aren't actually following college basketball like ourselves, who then decide, I want to know a little bit more about the prospects coming up to the draft. And you go there, and instead of being able to look at maybe 5 or 6 or even 11 players to bring it up to the Bulls, you're having to look at 20, 30 different prospects because it's that wide open.
Yeah, there's one example, which is actually the Illinois guy, Terrence Shannon Jr.
Yes.
Because you have to put in context of the team he's playing in and how they use him. And like in Illinois, he was the main guy offensively. Like he touches the ball all the time. He's not gonna have this role in here, right? So you're like, okay, he's been able to do it at this level, but that's not what we want him for. So he's very, very good athlete and very good defender though. So you can use those ones though. I don't think that's gonna be our pick. I don't think he's gonna be 11th, but unless we get a different pick, like if we make a trade and we get, for example, the Kings 13th pick or the Sixers 16th pick, it could be a possibility at that point. But
yeah, and they do like a hometown boy.
Another one, yeah. At the same time, we like to have local guys, but it also sent the wrong message of, well, we just pick the guy next door and it don't really, which is not the case because we know like that's what they love to do, like look at prospects and picking players, and that's probably where they have the most powers in terms of decision making. That's what we've seen the last couple of days in terms of the mandates and stuff like that. So like, okay, let's do our work at least on the draft and then go from there. So I really do expect the Bulls to leave the draft next week with more than 1 player.
Okay, and I think that's been a common belief amongst a lot of people. Then there are others that don't believe that any changes or any trades are going to be made as well. So it just feels like such a period of uncertainty and flux for the Bulls organization and the Bulls fans and Bulls Nation right now. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, well, I mean, Terrence Shannon Jr. is actually one of the players that was in my 3, which I'll speak about in a minute. But in terms of the draft, like, to me, it's the first chance we've got to see change. And what I mean by that is change the type of player that you are drafting. We've seen them draft these long projects, basically, Dale and Terry, Julian Phillips, even P. Will, you could say was a project, and we still don't know what P. Will is. We don't even know if P. Will's going to be on the team next year. So they've got to change that sort of profile, basically, of who they want to draft. And like, you keep hearing all these experts or whatever you want to call them say that players like Kyle Filipowski would be a good option for Bulls. Is a Vooch Mark II or a Vooch Light, whatever you want to call him. Well, why would you want to draft somebody like that? Why would you want Vooch starting? You take Vooch off for a rest to bring Vooch Light on. You want somebody that can change the way the game's going. Yeah. I'm not saying that he is a like-for-like player, because, he's probably got some things that he does better than Vooch, some things that he does worse than Vooch. But to me, don't draft somebody that you've got something similar already on the team, especially if we end up losing Drummond and stuff like that, which we're more than likely going to do. When Drummond was coming on, he offered something different to Vooch. So to me, don't draft somebody that's the same as Vooch. And yeah, I think when people are saying about us trading up in the draft, I'm not sure if that's the right way to go, but I do agree with you trying to get more picks, maybe further back, whether it is part of the Caruso trade, the Zach trade, or whatever. I mean, some of the trades that we've seen coming out in recent weeks, I mean, there was one last week to move up to 4th, I think, for the Spurs pick, and it was Dale and Terry plus the 11th pick plus a future first and a future second, or something ridiculous like that. And it's like, this, I don't agree with the fact that people are saying it's a weak draft, but it's not the draft that you make a move like that to move up.
No.
Yeah, definitely. It's not worth it.
I mean, as we said I said a couple of weeks ago, when we spoke about potentially moving up for Donovan Klinger, I like the fact that AK has potentially identified somebody he wants, and he wants to be aggressive to getting it.
Yeah.
But again, is it the right draft to do it? Do you know what I mean? Doesn't appear to be.
I mean, I do like Klinger, but I don't think he's gonna be available when it's our turn. So clearly, if you want him, you have to trade up for that. Is he the right guy worth trading for? I don't know. It remains to be seen. But if you decide that I want to bring size and physicality and rebounding and stuff like that on my team because we're gonna lose Andre Drummond, that could be an opportunity. But obviously, you don't want to sell a lot of stuff to get a couple more, just to go a little bit higher in the draft board. So that's probably not worth it.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, anything that results in us giving up picks is just not the move to make.
No, if you can get, like I said, maybe the 13th from the Kings or the 16th from the Sixers and keeping the 11, that's already a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll let you sort of drop your your 3 players, Neil.
So I mean, I kind of looked at a few different players. A couple of them you've already mentioned, Clem, but one that's kind of been doing the rounds and coming up quite a bit is Ron Holland. I mean, he's kind of been likened to a bit of another Dale and Terry kind of a player, though. And do we need another Dale and Terry? I mean, I love Dale and Terry. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's going to develop a lot better than he's been given credit for by a lot of different people around Bulls Nation. But do we need another kind of energy guy? I mean, he's definitely got good energy, and maybe the two of them together could work in the future. But for me, Ron Holland doesn't seem like your immediate impact kind of player on this roster, and that's my concerns with him. He was the standout from the G League Ignite in a team that didn't necessarily light up too much, pardon the pun. But I mean, I do find him interesting though. I quite like what I've seen of him. The tape I've seen of him is definitely exciting to watch play. So that's Ron Holland. Possible. There's talks that he could fall to 11 as well. So we'll see if that happens. I mean, I'm not going to be overly excited or anything,
No.
but it's certainly an intriguing prospect. The next one you've also mentioned is Dalton Connect. Another small forward / power forward, 6'7". He's another, or should I say 6'7"? I don't actually have his height written down here, so I'll get that in a second. But what I find about Connect is he's a really good spot up shooter.
Yeah.
And he can finish around the rim as well. And that's two things that we are certainly lacking in. Maybe not so much the finishing at the rim, but certainly spot up shooters. With Zach being out for the majority of the season, and with DeMar DeRozan aging, we're kind of lacking that spot up shooter, especially from distance. We saw an increase in that from Caruso, but we don't know if he's staying. We definitely saw an improvement in that from Io, which is good going forward, and an improvement from Kobe. But the more firepower we can get, the better. And I do think that's something that we really need. And I mean, Boston are after proving that now. They're after becoming world champions. World champions. I know how much you love that term, Matt. But they done it with 5 players playing out. I mean, they don't necessarily have a game that clogs the paint. They play outside the 3-point line. They look for space. They look for opening. And if they can't get the opening, that every single one of them can shoot from 3. And I think they've proved that with shooters, you can win. And at the moment, the Bulls are lacking in that area.
Combined with solid defense as well, though.
Well, yes, absolutely. Of course. Yeah. I mean, the thing about that Boston team is that they're exactly. And you look at that Boston team, and they play maybe a little bit off kilter. They don't play like most other teams in the NBA, but they're practically flawless. I mean, they can score, they can drive, and they can defend.
They're very well balanced.
Very well balanced team, and that's why that's why they managed to walk away with it. And they're getting criticized in a lot of areas because they had such an easy route to the final. But you've still got to beat whoever's in front of you. You've still got to play, and they did that. But anyway, that's off topic. Speaking of topic, my next player is Nikola Topic. See what I did there?
Nice one.
Yeah, that was smooth, right? That was a real smooth transition. So Nikola Topic, he is potentially going to slide because of the injury. Is that a concern? Of course, it's a major concern, especially when you're talking about potentially having to have surgery. But I mean, it wouldn't be exactly too far away from the way Bulls do things to draft a player that's kind of in that kind of a situation, would it? So I do think that there's a possibility that he could drop up to the 11th position. I've watched him play. I've watched quite a bit of his video that's out there, and his highlights, and he has great handles, good shooter. Again, that's bringing us back to shooting. He's listed as a point guard though, and my only fear is he too much of a shooter and not enough of a facilitator? And is that kind of more of the same of what we have already in the likes of Kobe and Io, where they can carry the ball, but they don't necessarily facilitate like a true point guard. But hey, we've got Lonzo coming back for that, right?
Yeah. He's a point guard at 6'7", though, so he's got size.
He has, and he has a 6'5" wingspan, just over 6'5" wingspan as well.
Yeah, that's not much.
And a torn ACL.
And a torn ACL. No, it's partly torn ACL.
I mean, it depends on the plans. Like, if the Bulls really want to go on the rebuilds and just like get some picks and build for the future, you can take the risk of taking him not playing him for the
Mhm.
whole season, like Sixers did with Joel Embiid, for instance. And yeah, if you're just tanking next year, doesn't matter. And then if you want someone that can produce straight away, Dalton Connect is the guy because he's
Yeah.
been he's almost 24 already. He's been doing his
Right.
full years in university. He can produce straight away because he's a very good shooter. He can add size and wingspan and shooting for this squad. So out of these three guys, that would be my pick because I'm not big on Holland because
No.
he really can't shoot that ball. Just the way he shoots as well is really horrible. Obviously, that's something to work on, and we have shooting coaches
Mhm.
for that. But it starts from quite low, so that's some work to do with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great
Yeah, I
athlete,
mean,
but can't shoot the ball.
yeah, it's like Ron Holland was initially on my list, but like I say, I'm sick of having the same sort of player. Someone
Yeah,
that,
we already have enough people like that. Yeah, I agree.
yeah,
Mhm.
and especially somebody else that we need 3-point shooting, and it doesn't project to be a good 3-point shooter. So
No, not at all.
Dalton Connect as well. When we first sort of originally he was linked with us like a few weeks back. I liked what I saw, but it obviously seems to have moved that far up people's mock drafts. I just can't see him been there when Bulls pick, which is why I've left him off my
Yeah, he's
list.
more like 7, 8, 9. So we have to see.
Yeah. So, like I say, Terence Shannon Jr. is one that is on my list, purely because obviously Bulls have just worked him out. Just been cleared of obviously his charges, which I'm not going to get into, but I think that's maybe why he's so low in a lot of people's drafts as well, because just didn't know whether he was going to actually be available for a start.
He missed a lot of
Uh,
time, didn't he, towards the end of the season because
Yeah,
of it?
yeah, it was in the middle of the season, wasn't it? And then I think he come back for the Big Ten that
Mhm.
I won,
and he
and
had
he was
issues out of the courts as well. So
yeah, and I think you can look at that as a positive or a negative. Do you really want Bulls to draft somebody that's coming with drama? Um,
which
but
would not
then
be the first
obviously,
time. But
No, it's been done a few times before.
yeah,
but obviously he has been cleared of it, and
yeah,
the positive side of that is he can use that as he knows what not to do now. He knows the situations not to get himself into, and
yeah.
to focus just purely on what he wants to be, a basketball player. As you said before, he's athletic, he's fast, he's very fast
He
in
really is.
transition.
Yeah.
He makes Ayo look slow in transition. Gets to the rim, he draws fouls. I think he averaged something like 8.8 free throws per game in the last year at college. He's not got a very big wingspan, which is obviously seen as a bit of a negative. Doesn't look to be a decent enough defender. If we are going to move Zach, I think somebody like him coming off the bench, it's not a like-for-like replacement for Zach, obviously, but he offers a lot of what Zach does. Good spot-up
He
shooter,
does.
very athletic, very explosive, but he's not a playmaker either, which...
No, not at all. But there's a lot of guards and point guards that are projected, again, depending on the mock drafts, but projected lottery or top 20. But
Yeah.
not many of them are actually playmakers. So
Mhm.
it's quite difficult. Like the one we haven't talked about yet, which is Devin Carter, that the Bulls seem to have said to him, right, if you're still here on 11, we take you. His guard is like 6'2" or maybe 6'3", but he's not a playmaker.
Yeah.
So
Well, he's actually on my list as well. You're going through my list quite quick here. Yeah, I think he's listed at 6'2", 6'3", with a 6'8", 6'9" wingspan. which is obviously what helps him be the projected elite defender that he's meant to
Yeah.
be. Obviously, his offensive game took a big jump last year, and he was 37.7% from three last year on 6.8 attempts, which I'd take that, especially off the bench with his defense as well. And if he can become that 3-and-D sort of player, does his playmaking or lack of playmaking really matter that much? But then you've also got Ayo in that position, and obviously if we keep Caruso in that position, so where does he get his minutes? But like I said, just supposedly promised him that if he's there, they're going to take him, which that's why I've looked at him a bit more. But there's a video that I sent to you, Neil, the other day of his defense, and I said to you, how many of them are fouls in the NBA or
That's
get
the
called
thing.
as fouls in the NBA?
Yeah.
Because he's very aggressive on defense, and obviously the NBA doesn't allow defense with certain players. So I think obviously at 22, obviously he's one of the older players as well, so he kind of knows who he is already, which can be a benefit. He's not trying to come in and be something different or whatever. So yeah, he's one on my list, and the last one, which he's been on and off my list, he seems to be going up the mock drafts a lot lately, is Khalil Ware. 20-year-old, obviously big, 7'7" wingspan, which is just ideal for what we need.
Yeah.
And this goes back to what I was saying about change, getting away from that Vooch type big.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously we've seen that AK doesn't like rim running bigs, as he moved Daniel Gafford as soon as he got here. Very good on the lob, very sort of explosive around the rim, pretty decent 3-point shooter, low volume but good accuracy. I think it was something like 42.5% on 1.3 attempts, something like that, which obviously if you've got somebody who's a rim runner, you're not expecting them to be standing on the arc like Vooch bricking threes. So if the ones he does take he can hit, bonus. Obviously the negative side to him is apparently he gets bullied quite a bit because of his sort of slight frame and a low motor, which we've seen enough of that with P. Will. So, but like I say, at 20, coming in, backing Vooch up, could be an option.
Yeah,
So
that could be
rather than
interesting. I haven't watched him that much, so I can't. I don't know. He's one of the guys I haven't really looked too much.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I've only really looked at him recently, just purely because he's seems to be moving up.
Yeah.
And at some point, obviously, people are going to start putting him at that 11th pick in the mock draft. So, I mean, one other thing that I want to see out of this draft or not see is I want the player to be able to come in and be around the first team, not come in and get sent straight to Windy City. Obviously, go through summer league as they all do,
Obviously.
go through training camp, and then we know Billy likes to use this 9-10 man rotation, but there's no reason why whoever he picks can't get into that. You know what I mean? Whether it's as the 9th man, 10th man, even the 11th man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
11th pick, after all. So, but if we draft somebody and the first thing we do is send them on to Windy City, then it's, to me, I don't trust AK enough in the draft as it is. So that'd be a bad start for this change that we're.
I think that's why, as we said, there's no point drafting another Dallin Terry or another Julian Phillips. Let's have someone with different skill sets that you can actually put in a game straight away, have an impact, and that's why I stay on Dalton Connect, because for me he can come in and produce pretty much straight away. So remains to be seen, obviously, but I think it's a safer bet than Holland, for example.
Yeah, and that's why I went with Devin Carter as well, because I think he's a safe bet that can come in, and the skill set he's got can be utilised straight away, basically, providing other players have been moved previous, like Caruso or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I've got nothing else on the draft. I don't know if any of you two have.
No. Anything else you want to say, Clem?
I mean, no, not really. We haven't really touched much on like guys like Cody Williams or Rob Dillingham, but I don't really see them coming to us. So anyway, so I don't think it's.
Yeah, I mean, Cody Williams was one that was linked to us, wasn't he? That was the position people had him going, but he seems to have moved up in a lot of drafts. And
yeah,
I mean, the one going back to what one player you mentioned earlier on is that Tijan Saloon. I know I've said I don't want to see a project or these typical sort of same players drafted, but
yeah.
I wouldn't be mad if we did get him. I think it was you highlighted to us that about AK being out in France watching him.
Yeah, I think it was like back in February or something like that.
Yeah, I looked at him then and I liked what I saw, but initially he was projected like late first, wasn't he? Maybe even early second.
He was like 4-5 at some point, and yeah, again, some website would put him at 4, some website would put him at 16. So it's hard to tell really.
I mean, he's one of the younger players in the draft as well, isn't he? I think
he is very young. Yeah, he is.
He's 18, isn't he?
Yeah. I think he's 19 by the start of the season, but
by the start of the season, yeah.
So, but then he could be somebody that, if any other team drafts, he ends up in the rotation. If Bulls draft him, he ends up back in France, just because like Marco, basically, because Bulls just don't know what to do with these projects, do they? So.
Yeah. We can't say we've been very good at developing people. So
no, sadly not.
No.
I mean, you look back on all the draft picks that he's made. Ayo's probably the one that stands out.
Yeah. Clearly.
So, and that was a second round pick, which we know that he likes, which is hopefully something that we could possibly pick up in any sort of a trade, because the players that they've just worked out, at least 3 of them project to go in the second or even undrafted.
Yeah. And remember, last year we had no picks at all, and we made actually a trade to get the second round pick and get Phillips.
Yeah, exactly. So there is, I mean, we've both said that we're going to be watching the draft. I mean, we're going to have to get up at like 1 a.m. for it or whatever it is.
Something like that, yeah.
We're used to that. So
yeah,
I'm actually quite excited. Yeah, I'm actually quite excited by the draft, to be honest, just purely because of the unknown.
And also, it's on two nights now. We have the second round on the next day as well. So you still have, like, between the 2 rounds, you have a lot of time if you want to make a trade or something. So it gives more time to the GMs to think about stuff.
I mean, obviously, it is going to be, well, from next week, it's going to be an exciting couple of weeks, really, with free agency opening just not long after. Obviously, at the minute, we can negotiate with our own free agents, Demar, P. Will, whoever else there is.
We can finally give them our 80 million in 2 years. Finally.
So that takes me on to the next question for you: is what do you actually want to see Bulls do this off season? I know what you want to see and what they will do are completely different, but
I think I said it on the screen there. Like.
Sell the team.
It's not gonna happen, right? What I would like to see, But again, what I and the fan base want to see is like so opposite of what the franchise want to do. It's just like the gap is insanely massive. But anyway, um, yeah, like I said, use that draft to begin something new. Make the changes that you said you would do, and not just the coaching staff. Um, and really like find a project, an idea, a direction, and say that's what we're doing. Um, get a trade for Zach if he really doesn't want to stay. Get a trade for Caruso if it gives you a good pick. Uh, don't let the Reinsdorf tell you what to do. Uh, there's so many things, so many things. Have a better communication as well. Not not have the insiders telling us that Maurice Cheeks is finally going to the Knicks instead of just taking a step back. There's so many stuff. I don't know where to begin. But yeah, as far as the roster, I like I said, I would like to have more than one player when we go out of the draft. If we can get a good deal for Zach and or Caruso, which would allow us to have more cap space because we don't at the minute, but we need it. Then that would be a good start, and then that's something that's not going to happen. But if we can find the team for Vooch, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
No.
unless it's Clint Capella.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it just popped up here in front of me actually about again.
Oh my word!
Yeah.
No, I mean it's like we spoke before. Obviously, we introduced you onto the pod, and obviously it is just rumours. We've said time and time again, we don't believe anything until it comes out of Woj or Shams, and then eventually confirmed by Casey Johnson.
Yeah,
that's how we work. So yeah, the rumours are good to talk about, and the rumours are good to, put down basically. But
definitely.
the big thing is, for me, I think Bulls fans at the minute seem set that DeMar's coming back from everything that we've heard. Obviously, we've heard that they want to bring P. Will back. Where's the change coming? Is moving Zach and possibly Caruso enough? Does that warrant enough change?
In terms of cap space, possibly, because at the minute, if you keep everybody without adding anyone, so you still get the same team as last year, you pay the tax, and that's something the Reinsdorf does not want to do. And so basically, the mission is to find ways to not pay the tax, and getting rid of Zach's massive contract is going to help for that. So that's why I see him moving, but they waited a long time before making decisions. Like we've heard the news a couple of days ago about saying no to multiple first round picks for Caruso because we really wanted to go to the playoffs and try to get there. Well, we failed. So now let's just start with a blank new page and just try to get something out of Caruso and Zach LaVine before we can't get anything anymore. And go from there. And then if you scrap Zach and Caruso's salaries off the book and you use it to bring back DeMar and P. Will, you don't have a lot of space to sign anyone else. So, if any,
replacement or anything.
Yeah. You basically get Zach and Caruso away and you get two rookies.
Yeah, which to me, it's not necessarily saying we're tanking, but we're trying to keep that 10th pick or top 10 pick
from next year. So as long as they don't come in and say we're competitive, because if they do, I'm like, but yeah, I mean, as long as they say that's the plan, we have a plan, we that's how we're gonna do it, just like make a decision.
Yeah,
I mean, they seem to have picked the wrong the wrong year to try and make these changes, whether it's through the draft. It's the week draft, and the free agents. It's not a fantastic free agent list either. The ones that the bigger names, like your Paul George, we've got no chance of getting. And whether you'd want him or not anyway, but it just seems like for the last 3 years, or however long it is now, where they've not made any moves, apart from band-aid moves, they've now chose this year to try and do it, and it's like, you've given yourself some worst opportunities to do it.
And at the same time, which free agent will say, "Oh wow, the Bulls want me, let's go there because it's amazing," right? Because they are so competitive and stuff like that, right? And that's one thing that really bugs me off is, like, I remember when we made those changes and AK came in and Mark Eversley came in, and I was like, for me, their main mission is to make the Bulls a good destination for other players. Like, people would say, I want to go to Chicago. After years of being run with Paxson and Foreman and being a joke, like, let's restore the Bulls image. Let's make them lovable again. Let's make sure the players are like, yeah, I want to sign for that team because they're doing great stuff. Well, 4 years later, it seems like to be a massive failure. So if we could finally make that happen, I don't think anything would make me happier at this point.
Yeah, and it looked initially like that was what was being carried out. Yeah. But here we are, like you say, we've gone full circle. We're back where we started, where the Chicago Bulls are no longer a destination that people want to come and play to or play for.
Yeah. So I've got nothing else. I don't know if either of you have.
Nope.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff we could say about the Bulls and the way it's been run, but I don't know if if it's really worthy of going into that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, obviously, once again, Clem, thanks for joining us.
Anytime.
You are obviously in the Discord a lot with us, obviously on Twitter and all that, but
talking about WNBA as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You're big interest in the WNBA and the Chicago Sky, haven't you?
Shout out to Laura because she's watching the Sky with me as well. It's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm annoyed with the WNBA at the minute because in our fantasy league I had Cameron Brinks.
Oh my God, that injury she got today was like, breaks my heart.
Yeah, so
breaks my heart.
She was my.
Terrible.
I think she was my top point scorer so far, which says a lot about my team.
Yeah.
But I do have Angel Reese as well, so
nice.
The doubles are doing me good.
Double machine.
Yeah,
she's great. She's great.
Yeah. So obviously, if you want to give your Twitter handle out again for anyone that missed it at the start and wherever else they can find you.
Well, as you can see, it says there, French Bulls fan. That's where you find me on Twitter and on Instagram. I also have a second Twitter completely devoted to the Chicago Sky, which is Chicago Sky FR for France. So if you want to follow WNBA and the Sky, that's where you'll find me as well. I have a YouTube channel called French Bulls TV. If you want to learn a little bit of French and sometimes me swearing in French, but that could be one way to learn French. So why not?
That's it. Once again, thanks for joining us. And as always, I've been Matt, and you can find me on Twitter at MattSearedUK. Find us on all the socials at SearedUK, and we will be back at some point next week.
And you'll find me on Twitter at NeilSearedUK on behalf of both Matt and myself, and of course our special guest Clem and the Fans First Sports Network. Thanks once again to everyone for tuning in. From us both, do remember it's a Chicago Bulls thing wherever in the world you are. Until next time, see red people and go Bulls.
See red.